What's going down, kids? Welcome back to Faenza. It's Grand Prix World, it's midweek, and we are making a profit just about. Um, our money's gone down a little bit because I've built two spare parts, and I'm going to make use of those right now. I was considering taking a look at when we could begin splitting off some designers to deal with particularly our brakes, which are poor, to say the least. That said, it might be better to just sort of tough it out because, again, it comes down to economic capacity. How much can we actually do with the staff we have available, given how difficult it is for us to still produce spare parts? In the last episode, we hired ourselves some designers, which was an important step to take. Make sure that we're boosting production where we can. Pedro Diniz has picked up some damage to car 1. We really do need to do something about that. But what's his wear level like? Pretty high as well. Okay, then what I'm going to do is... I didn't really want to spend the money, but... since we're not testing, let's spend a little bit extra cash and get ourselves another spare part so we can repair the damage and get the wear off the cars as best as possible. Car 3 will be our priority since that's the guy who's actually been finishing races. I think we need to take on some more mechanics when the money's a little bit better. Yeah, I'm going to save that spare part for what... It's good that's come up actually. So as you can see, because our staff are not particularly efficient, we can use a spare part to take 7% off that damage. But that's not really worth it. It is not worth it. Let's see if there's any mechanics on the market. There are, but only good rated ones. But then again, that's a bit more in our price range, I suppose. We'll take on another apprentice as well. There we go. Still not doing any hospitality. Again, no point. It's not going to gain us anything, and what we really need to do is wait and run it at particularly Monaco. Other than that, nothing else really left to do. We're going to save that spare part for the next round. We've received no updates from any of our partners, so we're still running Evolution 1 of everything, and we'll probably stick that way throughout most of the season. Our number one priority continues to be the design of next season's car. We need to take the biggest step forward we possibly can. That means next round I'm going to keep looking for designers. I'm going to keep picking up designers as long as the budget allows for it. We do have to continue to make savings so we've got cash on hand to finish construction of next year's cars, and the rounds really do fly by after a certain point in time. Going to keep running the drivers at the same level we have been. No reason really to continue to pull back at this point. Still running the split strategy. Yep, let's go to Argentina and see what we can make happen, huh? So, 23 degrees and cloudy for qualifying. Can we achieve anything? Not really. Again, Toro Takagi out-qualifies Deniz by about 4/10. So he really is synergizing with the car much better than Deniz is, but again, we're stuck with both drivers for 3 seasons really, so it's probably best that we don't stare too much into comparing performance and instead focus on the team topics. At the sharp end of the grid, John Lacey's McLaren sits on pole on a 125.769. Michael Schumacher's Williams lines up second on a 125.884. Heinz-Harald Frenzen's Benetton takes third, ahead of teammate Johnny Newhouse. Shinji Nakano's McLaren sits fifth, and Luca Badoa in the Arrows has a standout qualifying to take sixth on a 126.018. Smashing indeed. Damon Hill in the Ferrari, Esteban Tuero in the other Arrows. Arrows taking a big step forward. David Coulthard and Mika Hakkinen Sauber round out your top 10 in qualifying. 25 degrees and very dry for race day. Pretty sure we're going to end up getting another DNF. So let's not hold our breaths for any miracles. We're going to go 36-36 with Toranosuke. Nice. And yeah, we got another DNF. Another component failure takes out Pedro Diniz at the start of the race. That could be a factor of all the wear on his car, to be honest. Takagi finishes 15th, a lap down on Ricardo Rossit's Tyrrell. Meanwhile, up where the people who matter are, Jean Alesi has a start to flag run to put him in first position. Michael Schumacher retains second as well. David Coulthard in the Ferrari completes the podium. The final points paying positions go to Nakano, Badoa and Johnny Herbert. Fairly decent amount of attrition there, so it doesn't seem like many people are suffering endemic reliability problems at this stage. We're still a lap up on the Stewarts and Prosts, which is good enough. David Coulthard and John Alesi now tie at the top of the Drivers' Championship on 18 points apiece. 2 points clear of Shinji Nakano. Michael Schumacher sits 4th. In the Constructors, McLaren open up their lead even further to 34 points to Ferrari's 18. Williams sit 3rd on 15 points. We made another profit, which is good news. Let's see if there's anyone we can hire. Doesn't look like it. Let's check in at the design office. Our car is legal and we have half completed stage 1. That pleases me. I'm still not ready to pull staff off to work on the brake problem. I'm really not. But it's encouraging that we're starting to make some progress. We've got damage on all 3 cars now, which I really didn't want. I don't know how Takagi picked up damage, but apparently he has. So we will bang out some spare parts. Right, we have to prioritize here. Takagi's car is in the worst condition. I think the best thing we can do is repair the damage to car 2. And that will become Deniz's car. Then car 3 gets a spare part for wear and a spare part for damage. And we'll just have to do what we can to keep his car running for now. So it's a little bit unfair, I know, because Diniz is actually ending up with a better car than Takagi without really deserving it, but the main thing is we managed to get the damage off both machines and keep some money in the old bankaroonie. Let's check out what's going on over here. No progress yet on the Ford deal, or the tyre deal, or the fuel deal, or the deal with Tommy Hilfiger. So that's pretty grim. Again though, we don't have the best morale in any of our departments. I wonder if... yes, we can. So I'm spending money I don't really have here, but I want to try and get a little bit of a boost if I can. There we go. Let's check on the share price for the team share. Still at 80,000. I'm going to wait till we get above 100,000, and that should give us a nice boost towards completing the final build. The cars are as repaired as they're ever going to be. So let's take a moment to deal with what normally opens the episode. I've got a lot of notifications of comments from you guys. I really do appreciate that as ever, but I've not had a chance yet to read through 100% of them. I did see though there was some interest in the Grand Prix 4 management game that I had in mind. and some of you were asking, could I do a separate video on it to kind of lay out how it would work? And I think that's an excellent idea, so I am going to do that for you. I'm currently working at the moment on a design for how the game will work, because how these things work in the past is there's a set of drivers and that's all that changes. And I don't think that's a particularly engaging experience. So because I have an editor and I can change the engine power and performance metrics of both cars and the skill set of drivers, what I want to do is set up a few spreadsheets to come up with formulas that adjust those scores depending on actions that you guys take. So I'll run down properly in a full video, but I need to think up some rules and a way of balancing the game in a way that makes sense. I think for it to be authentic, you're going to have big teams and small teams, but I know that it's not fair to start guys with an inherent disadvantage or advantage. So everyone would start on an equal footing, and then as the seasons go by, you'd start to see a little bit of differentiation between the top running teams and the teams that aren't doing so well, because I think it makes sense to incentivize winning. And additionally, I will go into as much detail as I can without giving too much away, because it's important that I don't make it blatantly obvious where the biggest gains are to be found, because that removes the point of the game for you guys. But I will come together with some ideas. I'm going to run some testing. I can't promise it's going to be in the next few weeks. It might be start of next year now, but I will do some off-screen simulation of the game, and I'll play on behalf of all of you, and try and figure out what works, what doesn't work, how the game would be in balance, and then make corrections. And maybe we could do maybe we could agree that after the end of the first season, you guys give feedback and we tweak how things work. And what I'll do is, again, I'm reluctant to sort of commit to too much, because I don't know how much time I'll actually have available, but I think we can do this. And ideally, I'd like to, at the end of season 1, maybe reveal what everyone did and the effect it had, so you guys can see how the game was roughly working. I again wouldn't reveal the numbers behind it. And there will be a randomized element, because I don't think an upgrade package in real F1 always delivers improved results. So it might not necessarily improve the car in the way that you might think in this game. But the point is, if I can release a timeline of when people put upgrades on the car, and then you can see how the race results panned out afterwards and how the drivers developed based on their race performances, you guys can see the effect without seeing the numbers that created the effect, and tell me if you think things are going in the right way. Because when you're in the game, it's very easy to go, well, I spent all this money on a driver and I put these 2 upgrades on the car and it didn't get me anywhere, but this team is now doing really, really well. And until you can see like the big picture of the actions everybody's taking, it's very difficult to really appreciate that maybe the decisions you're making are not optimal. So we'll figure it out, but I'm more than happy to do a video to you guys explaining how it would work, and then we can see if it's something we want to go forward with. A lot of feedback coming in as well about how we're going to take the channel forward as a group. So lots of management sim stuff is obviously going to be on the cards. F1 2016 is still going, and I was pleased to hear a few of you who watch Grand Prix World also watch that. That's cool. I just recorded qualifying for the Spain round, and I've been working on the format a little bit, so it's not yet at the stage where I'm able to give it sort of TV style presentation, but I can ensure that I'm having relevant F1 conversation all the way through. So I'm preparing a little bit in advance. I've got some notes that I can glance down at if I find myself and a mental blank, because as I always say, it's kind of hard to drive your best and speak at the same time and have those words make sense. I mean, I even say nonsense when I'm playing Grand Prix World, and that's not as twitchy, time sensitive as something like F1 2016 is. So again, I appreciate your feedback. Hopefully the changes work for you guys and we can get a bit of dialogue going. My aim is to sort of get a bit of conversation, not just between me and you, but between you guys as a group. Everyone I've dealt with who watches the channel and interacts has been awesome. Everyone's very, very friendly, very knowledgeable about either the games that I'm playing or F1 in general, and I think there's potential there to have some really good conversations going on. So in the qualifying episode we'll be talking about Daniel Kvyat, what's going on with him, how his performance is, what we think is going to happen to him. We'll be talking about the driver situation at Renault, the upcoming formula change, and Sebastian Vettel's relationship with Ferrari getting a little bit sour behind the scenes. Mustache twiddle. Everything else that's in the comments and everything I will get to as soon as I am able, and we will discuss it in an upcoming episode. Nevertheless, that doesn't mean we need to hold back now, so let's head off to San Marino. We need to... Ooh, where have my frames gone? There they are. Right, what we need to do before we go into that is... I've got to remember this is still supposed to be a tutorial playthrough, so we need to discuss some things. Firstly, just to reiterate why I'm doing things the way I'm doing. The designers, per staff member, were getting the lowest possible performance out of them. So in order to achieve anything, you have to throw a lot more staff weight behind any single task. The biggest gain for the team is going to be in producing a much better car next season. We already have a better lead designer, which has some effect. We now have a CAD and CAM system in place, which aids the processes on 2 stages as well. So we've already made the job a little bit easier for ourselves, but we still need to maximise our gains season on season. So again, the same as season 1, why would we spend staff capability, money, production capacity on producing an upgrade for a car that is a dog and will be a dog after we've upgraded it, when it's far more prudent to save ourselves the money and economic capacity that we lose building things like driver aids and new front wings, and instead just produce the best car we can for next year. And at some point we'll reach sort of a tipping point where it begins to make sense to develop that car, because we're in a position where if we develop, we can pick up a few points, and points mean cash, and cash means everything else becomes easier, and the cycle just gradually speeds up. The team's already beginning to spool up. We're already off the back of the grid with not minimal effort, but close to. We've been a lot less conservative than I would otherwise have been. However, we're still being very conservative comparatively compared to a lot of how you would play other teams. Our big weakness at the moment on this season's car is the reliability of certain components. The brakes are of particular concern because not only are they unreliable, but they perform badly as well. And your technology is something that it's good to stay on top of if you can. They are both a reflection of how well this season's car is developed and your overall sort of engineering quality. So there is benefit in upgrading your technology because you don't really want to fall behind in any particular area. You can see already how frequently people like Deniz are having component failure because our components are unreliable. If we had a bit more cash on hand, I would be working to address this, because with the extra cash I could boost the design department quicker than I have been doing up until now, and we could potentially get 2 or 3 tech upgrades out over the course of the season. It'd be difficult to make it work, I think, without worrying ourselves on the budgetary front, but there would be short, medium, and longer term benefit to doing it. So, what's our position now? In my opinion, our position is, first of all, fill this bar. We absolutely have to fill this top bar. Once we've done that, depending on how early in the season it is, we can begin to break off a small percentage of staff to work on technology. And progress will be very, very slow, but by the end of the season we might have got 1 or 2 reliability upgrades out there, which might help us keep the cars from finishing each round in a condition that requires us to split our spare parts between removing wear from the car and fixing damage. Again, it's a slow process. This season is going to be only marginally less boring than the first season because we don't really have a lot of capability to do anything, which means I don't have a lot of opportunity to talk about the decisions I'm making and why we're doing what we're doing. So there will be a lot of me repeating myself to make sure that the message gets through that we have our hands tied in a lot of senses at this stage. I still think it's possible to be picking up points next season if this season goes our way. I think a push on the championship is going to be later than it would otherwise have been because the easy to get team sponsors have been tied up on contracts longer than I would have expected. Very disappointed that Blondes wouldn't speak to us given that they don't have a partner right now. Waiting until 2001 at the earliest to get a Red Bull deal means that 2002, assuming we got the Red Bull deal, would be the first season that we could really begin to push things forward, because it's both a works deal and or a team sponsorship deal, particularly the team sponsorship deal, that really allows you to make progress. It frees up a lot of resources that trickle down to different areas of your team to free up capacities across the board. So, we might not be challenging for a championship quite as early as I liked. I'd expect a 1, maybe 2 season delay on that. Depends as well how our rivals develop. We saw in the Arrows playthrough that a lot of our rivals were busy fighting amongst themselves in the midfield, that they weren't really pushing us. So far in Season 2 of the Minardi playthrough, there has been some movement, but there's only 2 teams that have seemed to stagnate at this point, and that's Stewart and Prost. The sharp end of the grid seems relatively competitive between itself, and that means our job getting up there could be a little bit harder. Nevertheless, let us proceed to San Marino and see if we can't get lucky like Pharrell Williams. Yeah, come on, there we go. No new tyre compounds to play with, still splitting the strategy. What I am going to do actually is turn down Pedro Diniz, because the component failure is a real problem, and it seems that something he's doing is exacerbating it on his car in a way that Toru Takagi is not. So we'll turn him down and see if we can't improve his reliability a little bit. Interestingly as well, didn't really get any comments that I've seen so far about the future lineup for the team, but I am still in favour of a Moriera Loretti lineup or a Fisichella Moriera lineup. I like the idea of having like an Italian driver in one of the seats and another young driver, and Moriera is easily, in this game as well as the Arrows playthrough, the most promising of the younger drivers. We'll keep our eyes open and see who we can sign. That looks good. 24 degrees and light rain for quali. Not especially good news for us, but Pedro Diniz has a pretty solid turnout in quali, and Takagi was actually the last driver within the 107% of pole, so we did alright there actually. Great qualifying from Diniz. When you think about it, he's in front of both Arrows and the Tyrrell of Ricardo Rosset. Ralf Schumacher gets his Tyrrell up to 11th, which is a strong performance for him, but I'm very, very pleased with that because he was 2/10 clear of Luca Badoa's Arrows, and the Arrows is a much superior car at this point. Up at the sharp end, Michael Schumacher and Damon Hill line up 1 and 2, as you would expect in wet weather conditions when they're in competitive cars. Jean Alesi takes 3rd for McLaren. He's really synergised well with that team, to be honest, and I think it's just the wet weather that's outdone him this time. Coulthard's Ferrari, Frenzen's Benetton and Nakano's McLaren complete your top 6. Hakkinen leads Irvine in the Saubers for 7th and 8th. Alexander Wurtz's Jordan lines up 9th. And Johnny Herbert takes 10 for Williams. 21 degrees and it's dried up for race day. We don't need to mess about with the tyres too much because they've not been run. We'll do a 31-31 split with Tora Takagi as per the usual. Ain't no big deal. So let's crank that up. I'm dropping frames again, one moment. There comes like a certain point in the recording where I go down to like 1 or 2 frames per second, and I don't know why. Right, let's do it. 19th and 20th, which I assume means we had a double DNF. Yes, we did. Engine failure took out Pedro Diniz, and component failure removed Tora Takagi from proceedings. That's bad for us. David Coulthard, though, takes the win for Ferrari on a 1:36.06.811 ahead of Michael Schumacher. Coulthard's teammate Damon Hill takes 3rd for Ferrari, rounding out that podium. So big points win for Ferrari all in all. Esteban Tuero has an amazing drive again for Arrows, putting his car 4th. Hightower Frenzen's Benetton lines up 5th, and Shinji Nakano sits 6th in the McLaren for the final point. David Coulthard extends his lead at the top of the Drivers' Championship, 28 points to Michael Schumacher and John Alesi's joint 18 points apiece. Shinji Nakano now sits 4th. McLaren's lead has been closed to a mere 3 points ahead of Ferrari at this point. Williams remain 3rd, but they too have gained on the points as well. Benetton, Arrows and Sauber complete the list of point scorers to date. We made a big profit that round, however. That pleases me. We've got a little bit of progress on the Ford deal. A little cheeky bit of progress there. That makes me happy. And we'll take a quick look at the design studio and then we'll move to finish the episode. We made another little bit of progress. Not quite as big as last time, but still we're happy. It's good. Let's see if there's any people that we can hire for important jobs. We can get ourselves another designer and some more mechanics. Mechanics are actually turning out to be surprisingly important for getting the most out of the spare parts that we build. And although it's expensive, I'm going to get some more designers because I really want to make sure next year's car is dope as hell. Guys, I hope you've had a wicked start to the week, and we're over the hump now. Only 2 more days to go. I will catch you very, very shortly. Take it easy.